Storm Claudia struck the UK with a ferocity few expected, unleashing relentless rain and howling winds across the country. The storm's intensity was unprecedented, catching many off guard and leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. In just hours, regions from London to South Wales were battered, with rainfall reaching record levels, 12 centimeters in southeast Wales overnight. Streets turned into rivers, and homes were inundated with water, causing widespread panic and distress among residents. Rivers surged, ancient banks threatened to burst, and communities faced rising waters with nowhere to go. The relentless downpour overwhelmed drainage systems, leading to flash floods that swept through towns and villages, leaving devastation in their path. Winds tore through towns, toppling trees and blocking roads, compounding the chaos and hampering emergency response. The powerful gusts uprooted centuries-old trees, causing power outages and leaving many areas in darkness. Emergency services braved floodwaters and falling debris, conducting rescues and welfare checks in the storm's darkest hours. Their efforts were heroic, as they navigated treacherous conditions to reach those in need, often putting their own lives at risk. In Monmouth, the River Mono burst its banks, submerging much of the historic town and prompting a major incident declaration. The floodwaters engulfed historic buildings, turning streets into canals and forcing residents to evacuate their homes. The storm's onslaught was a stark reminder of our vulnerability to nature's extremes. As communities began to assess the damage and start the long process of recovery, the resilience and solidarity of the people shone through, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the devastation. As dawn broke over the horizon, the true scale of devastation became heartbreakingly clear. Entire towns like Monmouth had vanished beneath a relentless tide. Streets that once bustled with life were now silent, swallowed by muddy water. The familiar landmarks of daily life, schools, shops, and parks, were nowhere to be seen, replaced by a vast, shimmering expanse that stretched as far as the eye could see. Only the rooftops of homes poked above the flood, silent witnesses to the disaster unfolding below. Families who had lived here for generations watched helplessly as their memories and possessions disappeared beneath the rising water. Across England and Wales, more than 90 flood warnings blared, each one a stark reminder of the danger. The rivers, swollen far beyond their banks, surged through towns and villages, leaving residents gripped by fear and uncertainty. The relentless rain showed no sign of stopping, and every hour brought new anxieties. Daily life ground to a halt. Roads that once connected communities vanished beneath the flood, and cars were left stranded, half submerged and abandoned. The familiar hum of traffic was replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the sound of rushing water. Entire communities found themselves isolated, cut off from the outside world. People peered from upstairs windows, hoping for rescue, as the water crept ever higher. Major rail lines were forced to close, stranding thousands of travelers and workers. The nation's vital arteries for work, school, and supplies were severed, leaving many to wonder how long it would be before normal life could resume. Emergency crews worked tirelessly, evacuating families from their homes by boat. For many, there was little time to gather belongings, just a desperate rush to safety, leaving behind everything they knew. Businesses, some built over decades, were left in ruins. Shop owners returned to find years of hard work washed away in a single night, their livelihoods uncertain. The cleanup ahead promised to be long, exhausting, and costly. Volunteers and residents waded through mud and debris, salvaging what little they could from the wreckage. The psychological toll was immense. Families faced the loss of not just their homes, but their sense of security and belonging. The emotional scars would linger long after the water receded. The aftermath was about more than just water and debris. It was about the daunting task of rebuilding shattered lives, restoring hope, and finding the strength to move forward together. Storm Claudia's floods left a nation reeling, both physically and emotionally, as communities began the long journey toward recovery and healing. Just as the nation grappled with flooding, a dramatic shift brought Arctic air sweeping down from the north. Temperatures plunged overnight, with forecasts warning of lows down to -7 degrees Celsius. The UK Health Security Agency issued cold weather alerts, especially for the Midlands and North. Rain turned to sleet and snow, with even London bracing for wintry showers. The landscape, already waterlogged, was set to freeze solid. This rapid transition from storm to deep freeze is becoming a hallmark of our changing climate. The jet stream's erratic path now brings wild swings in weather, compounding hazards. The water left by Claudia was about to become a nationwide sheet of ice. As the relentless Arctic air settled over the region, the floodwaters that had only recently surged through streets and fields began to freeze. What was once a moving, muddy torrent transformed overnight into a solid, glassy menace. Roads and pavements, already battered by the flood, were now coated in a nearly invisible layer of black ice, catching even the most cautious off guard. The familiar landscape was altered yet again, this time by a silent, creeping danger that was almost impossible to see until it was too late. The threat shifted dramatically. Where people had once worried about the depth and force of the water, now they faced the peril of slipperiness. Every step outside became a gamble, and every journey by car or foot was fraught with risk. Emergency services warned of the dangers, but the ice was relentless, making even short trips hazardous. Minor roads and rural lanes, which had been slow to drain, froze solid. These routes, often lifelines for remote communities, became invisible traps. Drivers found themselves skidding uncontrollably, while pedestrians risked serious injury with every step. The countryside, usually a place of refuge, now posed its own unique threats. In towns like Monmouth, the aftermath was especially severe. Submerged cars and debris, left behind by the receding waters, were now entombed in thick layers of ice. Recovery efforts ground to a halt as vehicles and equipment became frozen in place, making it impossible to clear the streets or begin repairs. The ice sealed in the chaos, locking rubbish, debris, and even essential cleanup tools beneath its surface. For residents and workers, the sense of helplessness grew as the days passed and the ice refused to melt. The community's isolation deepened, with many unable to leave their homes or access vital services. Standard gridding and salting, usually effective against winter ice, proved useless on waterlogged roads. The sheer volume of frozen water overwhelmed local resources, leaving many streets untreated and treacherous. Gridding trucks struggled to make any impact, and authorities urged people to stay indoors. For the public, the choice was stark and unsettling: risk venturing out onto the perilous ice, or remain isolated at home, cut off from work, school, and even neighbors. Windows became the only safe vantage point from which to witness the frozen world outside. The transition from flood to freeze paralyzed entire communities in a new, insidious way. Small towns and villages, already battered by the storm, now found themselves cut off by a different kind of barrier, one that was cold, silent, and unyielding. Across the nation, the landscape was transformed into a frozen aftermath. The storm's devastation was now preserved in ice, leaving people at the mercy of the elements and waiting anxiously for a thaw that seemed far away. The freeze brought the UK's transport network to a standstill, with roads and railways crippled by ice. Major motorways saw pile-ups, while smaller roads became impassable. The Met Office urged people to avoid travel, exposing the nation's reliance on its fragile infrastructure. Railways suffered as points, and conductor rails froze, causing widespread cancellations and stranding passengers. Airports struggled to keep runways and planes de-iced, leading to delays and grounded flights. Supply chains broke down, supermarket shelves emptied, and essential deliveries stalled. The country, still reeling from floods, was now locked in icy paralysis. Britain's interconnected systems were brought to a grinding halt by the deep freeze. With transport crippled, businesses and schools closed, and daily routines collapsed. Offices, factories, and shops in hard-hit areas stayed shuttered, slowing the nation's economic pulse. School closures forced parents to juggle childcare and work, disrupting family life. Essential services struggled. Nurses' visits delayed, supermarket shelves emptied as deliveries faltered. Rural communities faced isolation, anxiously watching supplies dwindle. The freeze dictated every movement, confining people to their homes and breaking the rhythm of society. Life was suspended, waiting for the thaw. The cold snap brought hidden dangers, with icy surfaces causing a surge in slips and falls. Hospitals saw a spike in injuries, straining the NHS. The elderly, young children, and those with chronic illnesses faced heightened risks from both cold and isolation. Cold homes led to hypothermia and worsened health conditions, while high heating costs forced some to ration warmth. Indoors, faulty heating increased the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Mental health suffered as isolation and anxiety grew, especially for those living alone. The freeze attacked well-being on every front: physical, mental, and emotional. Surviving the cold meant more than just staying warm. It meant staying connected and vigilant. In these conditions, safety starts with staying home unless absolutely necessary. If you must go out, wear boots with good grip and walk carefully. Short, shuffling steps help prevent falls. Drivers should check tires, clear windows, and pack emergency supplies before setting off. At home, keep living spaces warm with layers of clothing and hot meals. Check on vulnerable neighbors. Sometimes a call or visit can make all the difference. Ensure heating appliances are safe and carbon monoxide alarms are working. Know the signs of hypothermia and seek help if needed. By preparing and looking out for each other, communities can weather the freeze together. The storm to freeze sequence is a glimpse of the UK's new climate reality: volatile, unpredictable, and extreme. Scientists warn that a weakening, wavering jet stream is driving these rapid weather swings. Our infrastructure isn't built for such sudden transitions, leaving us vulnerable. Adapting means preparing for floods, freezes, and everything in between. We must rethink how we build, travel, and care for each other. Storm Claudia's aftermath is a warning. This is the future, unless we act. The time to build resilience is now.